Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of the Economic Times Cutting Chai Stories, an initiative by ET Edge. On this platform, we identify leaders and talk about their personal and their professional journeys. We also discuss about the traits and the qualities that make these leaders stand out in the industry across different sectors and verticals. We are all well aware of the fact that these leaders are known for their spectacular work, and when we think of them, work is the first thing that comes to our minds. However, there is a long journey and a lot of stories that go behind the making of these successful people. On this platform, we try to bring out those stories and delve into their personal sides. Good morning, everyone. I am Dimple Bajwa, your host for this session. And today I have been joined by a young leader who is the Vice President of Products and Technology at Furlenco. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Mr. Varun Krishnakumar. Thank you for joining us, Varun. I am looking forward to having a great conversation with you today.
Thank you for having me, Dimple. Hello, everyone.
So, Varun, you're a young leader, and it brings us joy to see, youth like you building teams and
Mhm.
organizations. You have had previous experiences with some big names. It would be great if you could, walk us through your career path right from the beginning. Help us understand what Varun was when he joined his first job and what he is today.
All right. Um, See, just before I got into engineering, I pretty much figured out what I really like is computer science. I mean, we had a few courses back in school, and it just was so good that I knew I had to pursue this. So the natural extension for me was to, get into engineering, specifically computer science. So right after I got out of college, I joined a company called Exeter, where I joined in as a software engineer. And so that sort of gave me exposure to this entire technology world. And I mean, I used to build mobile applications since Windows Mobile. I mean, it's not even existent now, but that was the kind of exposure I got. Um, but after that, I sort of figured, I need to do more. I mean, when you're sort of ambitious, you always want to do more. What is the next step? So what made sense for me was to sort of, do an MBA and sort of see now how do I go and figure out a way to combine technology with business. So I did my MBA from IIM Calcutta, and things suddenly changed there. Calcutta, IIM Calcutta, as most of you guys would know, is a finance hub, right? I mean, people just talk finance and finance and finance, and my interest suddenly moved on to finance. I'm like, oh, this is pretty awesome, right? So engineering just went for a toss, and I did quickly move to finance. And right out of college, I joined a role where I was trading in oil derivatives. So I did that for like 3 years, and it was more of a prop trading desk, right? And it's pretty awesome. It's like you're playing poker for like 11 hours a day, and you're getting paid for it. So there was nothing like it, and I enjoyed it a lot. But then came in the realization that although this is awesome, I'm not really good at it. So there is a distinction between what you like as a hobby versus building a career out of it. So then a natural extension for me was, okay, you've done computer science, you've been a software developer, you have some business context. Now let's sort of get into a product and technology role. And this was somewhere around 2015, and that was a time when startups were really blossoming, right? A lot of things were changing. And I just made this conscious call that, I want to get into a startup and an early stage one at that, because that sort of makes sense for me that, I sort of need to figure out a way in which I can leapfrog my career. So startup made the perfect sense because you sort of get the kind of ownership that normally you're not known to get in other places, right? Because they're already at such big scale. So that's where my career started, right? And in Farlemco, I found a place where you had really great leaders, great mentors, and the culture was built in such a way that if you want to pick up something, you want to learn something, you want to own something, you just take it, right? So the opportunity to take those initiatives, learn from them, and create actual impact, that is what I kept getting over and over the years in Farlemco. So I've been fortunate that way. And that's how I sort of, came to where I am right now, where I'm leading the entire products and technology team.
Wow, wow, that is an amazing journey, I think. And of course, like I said, earlier, that Furlenco in itself is a very interesting initiative that
Right.
has been taken. And of course, it is helping the youth in big ways.
Yeah.
Uh, so, as you mentioned about your formative years in your career,
Hmm.
we all have that one person that we look up to as our mentor, someone who has
Right.
a strong influence on you. Who
Right.
was that one person, one or maybe two people for you?
So, so the thing is, for the longest time, I didn't really have a mentor or even really understood the real need to have a mentor, right? So it was pretty much sort of drawing inspirations from people around you, right? It starts with your family. You see your dad, you see your mom. For me, both my parents are working parents, right? So I could sort of understand what it means to, what professionalism means, what responsibilities mean. So it came from them. And then, of course, you have your teachers, you have folks that you meet. So I went to engineering in NID Nagpur. So there you see people from literally all around India, right? Because at that point of time, you had people from every state coming to an NIT. So then sort of gives you exposure to this diversity that you didn't have, and you then learn more from them, right? So for the longest of time, it was just based on experiences by talking to other folks. But only once I've come to Furlenco is when I found this real mentor, right? In fact, he was the one who hired me. His name's Ashwin, and that's when I realized just by having a mentor, it just opens up doors for you. I mean, you sort of learn on other folks' experiences, and I mean, if I had to go back and talk to my old self, I would say get a mentor. Right? It is very, very important to have a mentor. It is just something that everyone should figure out how to get one because
Right.
it is
I
super
totally agree.
helpful in everything in life.
Right. So now that you've talked about the person who's mentored you, or whom you consider as your mentor, there might be many out there looking up to you as
Absolutely.
their mentor.
Oh,
So
that way.
now I am curious to know, what defines your leadership style? How would you define your leadership style, and what are the traits that uh, you would say are your leadership traits?
Got it. So, see, normally, right, whenever you get thrown into a situation, either you sort of been working all your life and you're ready for it, or you're just given that and then you figure out how to do it along the way. So for me, it was the latter, right? I was just given this role, and I had to figure out how do I now sort of do the stuff that I used to do, but now I have this role where there is a team, and in some sense, I have to figure out how do I empower people so that we can get the best out of the team, right? So when it comes to leadership skills, it was mostly acquired by interfacing with my leaders, right? So Ashwin that I talked to you about, and Furlenco has a lot of such leaders, right? And we got that exposure. So then it became very easy for me to always talk to my leaders to figure out how I should shape my leadership skills, right? So that sort of gave me that context. And now what I figured out what it means to be a leader is, you've got to set this vision and stick to it so that everyone's on the same page. You've got to be able to get and form the right team, and then you just empower them. I mean, these three things is something I think if you do these right, I think you've succeeded as a leader. So now my role is to sort of just figure out how to get each one of these things done.
Right, right. That's a very positive answer there. So you mentioned that you look at your team and you have to empower people to get the best out of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Leaders such as yourself, you've been taking care of the teams for the past 2 years now because it's been very
Mm,
challenging. You've
mm,
taken care
mm.
of the teams, their families, and you've had to stay in touch with them most of the time because of the times we've seen. Between all this, how have you managed to take care of yourself, and how have you managed to give time to yourself?
Um, so see, ideally, the way I would like to do it is being able to have a plan for a me time. If you're in a role where you have to give your 100%, you have to be there. It then becomes very difficult to sort of just have something planned for you ad hoc. So if you're sort of able to create a plan to take care of yourself, to sort of be with family, right, to do the things that really you need to be doing, uh, then it becomes far more easier to sort of stick to it. So then I started taking conscious calls, maybe at 8 p.m. Weekdays ke baad, okay, that's it, like work's done. But of course, there are going to be these 2 or 3 days every quarter where you might have to stretch, but that's okay, that's reality. But then the remaining 80, 90 days of the quarter, you are able to do what you want. So the way I've been able to sort of stay positive throughout all of this period is by creating a plan where I'm able to do the things that I want to be able to do. And yeah, that's worked till now.
Right. And that's how you create a work-life balance, which is, of course,
Yeah,
very
pretty
important
much.
because, yeah, because
Absolutely.
somehow I feel that the lines have blurred, between your work
Yeah.
and your professional life.
Thank
But yes, we've got some really nice answer there. And of course, we need to follow that as well. Most of us need to follow that.
you.
Um, all right. So, changing gears now, work seems to have gone up many folds, and it has become very challenging to give time to yourself, to give time to your body, also your
Hmm, hmm,
fitness.
hmm, hmm.
Uh, what fitness goals do you have, and what do you do to pursue your fitness goals?
Um, so at least an effort to recognize that fitness is important, right? That is something you have to do. And, you're not, I mean, when you're young, you are okay. But then, as you sort of start doing more in life, as you age, you have to realize that it is very, very important. For me, that was very late. So then I just started doing basic workouts almost 3 years ago. So I've been consistently being able to follow the schedule where at least 3 days a week I'm able to work out, and I also wanted to do it the right way. So I ensured that I had a very good personal trainer, and I was able to sort of follow what he says. So you just sort of give in to that, but it's good. I mean, you start seeing the results. I mean, initially the first couple of months seems difficult, but from the third and fourth month onwards, you start seeing results, and that is what keeps driving you to be more and more, following on your fitness goals. So for me, it's simple. I just want to stay healthy. I want to be active.
Right.
I want to be able to play around, and as long as I'm able to do that, I'm happy.
Right. Just one question here. Have you ever tried doing yoga? Has it ever appealed to you?
It appeals to me a lot, and it is one of those things I've been procrastinating a lot. I mean, so we used to do yoga daily in school. So that was a thing that we
Wow.
ensured every day
Right.
morning. We used to do yoga, a little bit of meditation, but that was like very, I mean, 20, 30 minutes. But
But
then
you know the basics of yoga.
basics, but then like I want to do it the right way, because when you know that it works, right?
Right, right.
That
There's
that's
a lot
that's
of,
good enough
and
reason
there
for
are
you
a
to
lot
do
of
it.
technicalities in yoga.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
think it to
yeah.
be easy, but there are a lot of technicalities. Yeah.
Absolutely, right? I
Got
mean,
it.
so for all of these things, you do speak to the experts, but when you know that something works,
Mhm.
then that's good enough reason for you to to at least give it a try. For
Right.
me, I'm just hoping to do that pretty soon. But yeah, I will.
Right, right, right. All right. So, traveling is something that we've all missed for the past couple of years. Although, travel has resumed for a lot of people, but there are still a
Yeah.
lot of restrictions in a lot of countries and, of course, a lot of cities in India as well.
Mm-hmm.
While we wait for everything to get back to normal, and we already, I'm sure everybody has a bucket list and with the names of the places they want to tick off.
Yeah.
What city, what country do you have on top of your bucket list?
Um, so, I mean, there are a few countries in the bucket list, but it's mostly because I want to do something there. Not to sort of visit the country per se, but there is something over there that I
Right.
want to experience, right?
Mhm.
So, like an Eric Clapton concert in London, right?
Uh-huh.
Or the World Cup in Australia,
Mhm.
or, like drive around the Nordic countries.
So it's more
So,
about the experiences and less about the place.
yeah, less about the place. I
I,
mean, there are places that I would want to visit, but I think experience is something that I want to go for right now.
right. Right. All right. Okay, apart from working out, now that you've told me that you follow a workout schedule, what other hobbies do you have, and how do you fit those hobbies into your schedule?
Uh, so frankly, not a lot of hobbies per se. I mean, there is the hobby that we really stick to are board games.
Mhm.
So we've been sort of able to form this group. Luckily, I mean, so my wife is the one who sort of got me onto board games, and
Wow,
so we
interesting.
started playing board games, and we've got this crazy huge collection of all board games, and we've been able to sort of uh, develop this group of folks who are like really serious about board games. So
Mhm.
while we also play it for fun, but then there's also this, I've got to win. So let's strategize. We even Google strategies on how to play stuff.
Uh,
So that is more of the hobby right now, but not much else.
Yeah, it's very important to strategize while playing board games. Why? Because
Yeah.
everybody has different rules.
I know. And they last for like a good 1-2 hours, depending on the
They
game that
do.
you play. So
Yeah.
they're super fun and very
And it's
engaging.
also a good activity to, bring families or friends together.
Yeah. That's right.
Right. Okay, one last question. What does a day in Varun's life look like? How does it start, and
Hmm.
what is the last thing that you do before going to bed?
So a day in my life, right? So okay, I mean, I usually wake up between 6 and 7. The first thing
Early
I do,
riser.
yeah, I mean, I became an early riser after we've got a couple of dogs. So
Oh,
dogs don't
wow.
let you sleep.
Right.
So I wake up, take them for their walks, have their morning breakfast food.
Mhm.
Then alternate days I work out,
Mhm.
and then I come back, I prepare tea, and so then my wife and I, we have tea in the balcony, like that's our thing. um, and then once that's there, we prepare breakfast, and then yeah, of course, we go to work is
Mhm.
something that's especially in an environment which is like for Lingo, which is a startup, right? It's things are not constant. Things
Mhm.
keep changing every now and then.
Right.
So typically your day is divided into something that you planned in advance, so that there are things that are constant. That's how you
Mhm.
manage chaos.
Mhm.
And then there are these other things where you're sort of managing day-to-day stuff. What is my today's plan? What is my this month's plan? So a typical day is series of stuff that are pre-planned, so which are meetings with folks from different teams, meetings with folks from your team, uh, figuring out what are we trying to do, we have any roadblocks, let's together and solve it. So
Mhm.
more on problem solving. And then of course the remaining time is just to sort of figure out what do we do next, right? I
Mhm.
mean, we've sort of figured out what are we going to do for today or this month, but then
Mhm.
how do we figure out what do we do 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 12 months from now? So then we sort of speak to a whole bunch of different people just to sort of
Mhm.
understand कि ये सब आने वाला है, so maybe you
Mhm.
better be prepared for it.
Right.
So that's pretty much how my days goes.
Wow, that's interesting and yeah, nice. So, thank you, Varun, for those amazing answers. And I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you today. And of course, there is so much to learn from your experiences, and we got some really interesting insights into your personal side today. Thank you for joining us today for this session of the Cutting Chai Stories. Once again, Varun. And before I sign off, I'd like to welcome Mr. Aditya Agarwal. He's the head large enterprises Lenovo. Welcome to this conversation, Aditya. I will leave the conversation to you too, but before that, I have one last question for both of you here. So, what are the challenges faced by the industry in 2021? Is there any innovation that we see, and how do we get prepared for the upcoming years?
Aditya, you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. See, different industries, different challenges, but the one that we have seen is people are demanding more, right? They want faster, cheaper, and better at the same time, right? So, how do we innovate to get people what they want? We see several, industries doing really well on some fronts, and people keep on asking us that, hey, if one industry is doing this, why can't you do that? So that's one challenge. Second is this whole there has been more unpredictability in the whole system, right? So whether you call it supply chain, whether you call it products, shortages, how do you manage this whole thing? The demand for a few things has gone beyond what we anticipated, and how do you manage this thing, this supply situation is again, we see across industries, right? And the third thing, which is more of an IT, is that security has become even more important now, given where we are, working from home, and tech becoming more and more important. So how do we solve that? People used to tell us, hey, solve our problem. Now people say that anticipate our problem so that it does not come into effect, right? So that's what we are seeing right now.
Right. So when it comes to the challenges that I think the industry is going to face, right? One thing's for sure is that the current pace of innovation it's really encouraging. I mean, the kind of things that's happening in across cities in India, it's truly. I mean, the pace at which we're innovating, it's very very encouraging. So I'm sure good things are happening and good things will continue to happen. Um, but purely from a challenges point of view, um, I think the biggest challenge for us is people, right? You are trying to solve some really, really big problems, right? And you need people to be able to solve those problems. Um, and what we are seeing right now is that it looks like we need more folks to do stuff, right? I mean, we need more and more engineers, we need more and more people on the ops side, we need more and more leaders. So over the next few years, one of the biggest areas of investment for all of us is going to be to invest in our people. As long as that happens, I'm very, very certain that any kind of challenges that come in the future would be very, very easy for us to solve. Investing in people is something that we've got to be doing more.
Right. Thank you, Varun and Aditya, for answering my question. And now I'll pass on the baton to Aditya and request him to steer this conversation forward. Over to you, Aditya.
Thanks, Dimple. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you, Dimple.
Thank you. Likewise.